it's been hidden. We're going to send you over to Pinda quickly.
So, welcome back everyone. We have just seen this female leopard starting to show some signs of movement, and you can just see her there slowly stretching and starting to come away. Oh, look at her face. Look at that female. So what happened was she just really looked uncomfortable on that branch, and you can see it now. Super spiky, and it can't have been pleasant for her. And she tried to reposition, and now I think she's thought, no thank you, I'm going to find another little place to rest. I wouldn't be surprised if she finds another tree on which to sprawl herself. But she looks like she's in no hurry whatsoever. She's just looking around, scanning her surroundings against that beautiful backdrop of trees. Everything is just so green at the moment. I'm just having one lazy old Monday afternoon. Now in the previous time we saw her, about 10 minutes ago, we did see her belly. It did look like it was drooping down, but I couldn't tell if it was just the way that she was lying or if she looked like she's eaten something. Okay, now so we're going to try and stick with her and pray and hope that she walks closer to the road, because otherwise we may just have some trouble finding her again. But the way that she's taken down that tree makes me think that she will head slowly this way. And we're going to keep a very sharp eye on which direction she goes. So now she may find another big tree, and there aren't too many big trees around that I can see. So she might have to walk a little bit to find one. In this area, she will probably know most of the good trees, or she'll have a few favorite trees that she uses to rest in, so I don't think she'll have trouble finding a place. And on her way, who knows, maybe she'll come across something else that might interest her, maybe a herd of Impala. But we are going to now try and relocate her and try find her again for you. For now, we're going to send you across to Djuma.
Hello everybody, welcome on board my vehicle. My name is Steve, joined by on camera, and we had a gap in the rain, and the rain has now started again. So now we're going to have to put our flaps down, because this is actually going to be unmanageable. Let me just pull over here. Oh my word. Flaps, 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 flaps. Thankfully we have an assistant on board that can help us with the flaps, but whoa! Sorry everybody, but the rain is unrelenting today. And Paul's going to quickly try and cover the car, and we're going to send you over to Talu Kalahari with DJ.
Look at what we've just found right now. There's a beautiful Steenbok female, and it's actually quite an honor and a privilege to have the Steenbok standing still. Generally, it's an animal that is quite shy and quite skittish actually, and it gets to a point that whenever they see or hear vehicles coming, they generally try to run. But as you can see, the wind is blowing quite strongly still this afternoon. Look how nicely she's representing herself there. And gorgeous, gorgeous to see this animal in the open. This is one of those species that would be specifically, be quite strongly mixed feeders, as you can see, she's just starting to feed on some of the leaf litter of some of the bushes there, or some of the leaves, and just enjoying a fantastic meal this afternoon. And in a typical area where she's at right now, so they are quite territorial, and they, like the wildebeest, would be choosing a specific area where there's fantastic sweetgrass species in an area as well. But when grasses start to become a bit lesser in amount, you typically get to a situation where they then would have to have that extra supply of plants and leaves in a certain area. But what a gorgeous Steenbok female. This you don't get to see a lot this close by. And there we go. I was waiting for that to happen. Steenbok is actually animals that is extremely territorial, and the male and female would be specifically in an environment like this mark their territories quite predominantly, and they are married for life. They are a married couple. Right, let's continue taking the road down here. Look at this beautiful southern ant-eating chat. It just flopped up and about. We just spoke about those birds this morning coming across. Yeah, guys, sorry, there was a bit of tech issues earlier on. We missed the intro there, but yeah, like I said, I am Johan, and behind the camera is Morgan this afternoon. But yeah, there we go. So we've decided this afternoon to come a bit further east and onto the reserve, driving a bit further east into this area. You'll see in front of us there, it spreads out all into more mountainous sections where it's a fold mountain range opening up in front of us, alongside with semi-savanna woodlands in this particular area. Gorgeous, gorgeous environments. So in this area you could get quite a bit of a mixture between game numbers of RX coming through here. You could easily get a lot of kudu numbers, red hartebeest, and all of those guys could be coming through in these particular environments. So we are keeping our eyes open to see if we can find some lions, possibly this afternoon as well. See what we can pick up on. Sinek, you've just asked, do we get klipspringer at Tswalu? Sinek, for sure we do. It's a species that you're gonna have to work quite hard for, actually trying to find them. The ways to find them is hiking on the mountains or sticking to the mountains quite close by on drives, for instance. Now, because I've been on Tswalu for a long time, I know about a few pairs that's in certain areas and so on. They're also extremely territorial, like the Steenbok we spoke about earlier. So specifically with regards to that, yes, there are quite a few nice amounts of them actually in certain areas. Yeah. But yeah, special species. Very, very cool. There's another beautiful Steenbokkie. Steenbok female that just came out, starting to bolt out. Just running out towards the savanna environment over there again. But that's typically Steenbok behavior. Never really staying enough time to view it. We're driving in quite a different region this afternoon as opposed to what we've done this morning, thinking about the dune fields formations especially. This is quite different as opposed to that. And typically we could get the desert lions in this particular environment, typically because it's the right area for them as they move through this typical type of regions and so on. There's some interesting different plants in this area as well that I've just noticed there, but I'm gonna rather keep on going and see if we can get a better example of that particular one I've just seen. But yeah. So as you can see, if we look at the mountains in this particular area, it's quite a lot of more mountains coming together in a V-shaped formation in this area. But a little bit more about it later.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from South Africa and I'm the incredibly lucky winner of the Tswalu competition. Tswalu has so much to offer, but we're really looking forward to the game viewing options, as going out with a personal guide who has so much knowledge will just be exceptional. Motsi Lodge looks absolutely amazing and we're so looking forward to spending time there. It really is out of this world. I only registered as an explorer towards the end of January, so when the email arrived stating that I was the winner, it took me totally by surprise. I'd just like to thank WildEarth and Tswalu for this most incredible prize. It really is a dream come true.
WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Oh, my dear, I do find you most attractive when you're covered in bird lice. Oh, Charles, I love it when you peck at my head and clean the bird lice off me. Let me say hello to Barry here. Hello, Barry. I'm just going to examine you for some bird lice. Charles, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, all right. I shall look for bird lice for myself then.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Welcome back to Tswalu. So looking at this particular plant, look at this beautiful, beautiful flowers actually. Now this is one of the ones that I've driven past earlier on that I've actually mentioned to you that has got quite iconic features. So there's a lot of butterflies making use of this particular plant in this area for collecting nectar from this particular plant as it is. And this plant is actually not a parasite. The actual plant that's happening here is the blackthorn. Morgan, if you can have a look there. So the blackthorn plant is what this particular plant is making use of to actually live. And so what's happening here is the blackthorn is the host. And this is called wild mistletoe. So wild mistletoe is literally getting to a point where typically birds, like for instance your fructivores or your fruit-eating birds, would eat berries and seeds specifically, and also sometimes they would get like seeds stuck to their beaks, and it gets to a point that they would then get irritated with the seed being quite sticky on their beak and their bill, and they come to a branch and a stem like this and they rub it off, and eventually the plant itself, don't know if I can bend this open a bit here, but you can see there as it grew off that particular stem right there from sucking the moisture from the plant itself. So as you can see there, the mistletoe then living like a bird that just came to sit on the branch itself. But there's something much more broader happening with this particular plant. It's actually, this wild mistletoe has got a different name. We actually call it matchstick mistletoe. Now I'm going to actually show you something here. If you look at that, you'll see the top of this mistletoe flowering point it's actually got the tip there on the edge that's got a bit of a different matchstick shape color, and then this is the actual matchstick, and this is what it comes down to. But it gets even better. This matchstick, I don't know if you would believe me, but this matchstick could actually go a light as you strike it. So this is the matchbox, the actual leaf blade from this matchstick mistletoe. And then I want you to look very carefully what happens with the tip of this thing. And go. And there's the flame. Do you see that happening? So quite cool, actually. It literally looks like a flame bursting open, and then you got the pollen and nectar coming out of there, specifically through this matchstick mistletoe. So what is the reality about this? I mean, this is the joke that we have, but the reality about this is the bird itself would come past and he clicks the tip of the matchstick like that, and it flips open. As you can see it opening up there, and then it gets to a point that they would collect the nectar and the pollen and then go ahead and cross-pollinate a given area. Quite cool. So beautiful, actually, looking at something like that existing in nature in the Kalahari. And obviously there's a lot of other insects that would make use of this particular plant for nutrient levels and everything like that. But yeah, something quite cool we've actually seen on the way here. And so let's continue down the road and see what else we can find. As you can see, there's quite a lot of those little red tips sticking out all on top of these blackthorns here, and it's just because the blackthorn tree or shrub, if they are small, they are quite present to be rubbed off on that particular branches and stems. Yeah, the Kalahari holds in quite a lot of interesting features for plants being survival plant survival continuing furthermore for nature to carry on forth. More so over Harry, you've just asked, do only insects pollinate plants? No, you get birds, like the nectarines specifically. You get specifically talking about and you would talk about the hummingbirds overseas and so on. But here, your sunbirds, they would do that type of job as well. But yeah, mostly your butterflies is doing that, fulfilling that job most of the time. So it looks like the wind is quite strong on the plains still. So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way back into the thickets in areas closer towards the mountains, further down in that directions and so on. As it's appearing, animals are for this day mostly going to be hiding. So by the looks of it, we're going to work our way towards that directions for the day. As you can see, there's a bit more thicket land up front of us. Again, like we spoke about it this morning, there's quite a bit of stress factor happening. Marta, you just said you can almost not see the road. due to the vegetation overgrown it so much. Now, yeah, that's due to the amount of rains that we've actually had. You'll be surprised if you drive, especially in areas that we've literally just came from. It's amazing to see how the grasses, and some of them are even taller than me actually standing up straight. And I must say, I grew up in this province where, well, the Northern Cape province in this particular region, and I've never in my life have seen grasses the height that they've actually become now. And some of the vegetation has got the potential to actually cover roads badly, quite hectically. But yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to be part of something happening like this and being able to experience it like that. That's pretty special. So even though the wind is still quite strong, we're experiencing quite high temperatures at the moment. So animals are also still quite in the shade for the early bit in the afternoon. So we're gonna try work our way back in towards those directions. But coming back to the vegetation itself in this particular environment, all these beautiful white tufts that you see as we're driving through this area, beautiful shiny white tufts. Now that is the iconic grass species of this particular environment. These beautiful white shiny tufts that's coming through in this area. And you'll see these ones right in the middle of the road there, as you can see it. That is actually called Bushman grass. And the Bushman grass, that is the sweet veld of this particular environment of the Kalahari region. And you can see those beautiful white tufts fluttering in the wind there. But yeah, whenever you got land or property wherever those Bushman grasses are in abundance like that, it means fantastic feeding as it is. But yeah, gorgeous to see them like that. And that's typically obviously where you're going to get your selective grazers like wildebeest, the oryx, and even the red hartebeest. That's also a species we're going to try to see if we can find some of them this afternoon as well. Red hartebeest. So we're going to send you over to Pinda with a couple of zebras.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda, everyone. We have unfortunately lost the female leopard that we was planning on spending some time with earlier on. But we've managed to very nearby where we lost her. We've managed to find the zebra and giraffe, and I think these zebra are quite hurriedly making their way off this grassy patch because I think they can smell her still. So we are going to hang around here and see if maybe she doesn't pop her head back out. The only reason we lost her is because we are unable to go off-road because of all the rain. But it wasn't like she went too far, or it didn't look like she was going to move too far. So we're going to keep trying our luck in this area and see if she maybe pops out. It is a very cool, very sort of conducive afternoon for hunting, moving around for big cats. So I don't think that the possibility of her coming out onto the road and moving around is too unlikely. So we're going to see what we can find. Maybe these animals will give us some clues as to what her position is. These giraffe, or this giraffe that you can see here, because of the height advantage that it has over us, to spot her so look at that giraffe's just scratching an itch that it has on the side of its face. Very, very satisfying. And I don't know if you can hear the wind that is starting to blow, but it's starting to get very blustery, and I think that also might be one of the reasons why these zebras are getting a little bit more agitated, because the more wind there is, the less the zebras can actually hear and smell. And those are two senses that they rely quite heavily on to feel that they're safe. And they smelled the leopard earlier. They knew it was in the area, and now their sense of smell and their sense of hearing is effectively gone. So I think they've quickly hurried away just to make sure that they're out of danger. A female leopard that we saw the size of the one earlier probably wouldn't stand a chance in killing an adult zebra, most definitely not a giraffe. But there are one or two calves in this herd that could be potentially a bit more at risk to a leopard. So I think the parents or the rest of the herd probably playing it quite safe and taking it far away. Water. But we've got an amazing view from where we are, and Simon's just going to pan across to show you what we're looking onto, and you see that beautiful patch of glimmering water in the distance that's shining quite white. That is actually the Isimangaliso World Heritage Site. That's not too far away from Pinda, and that's actually Lake St. Lucia itself that we can see from up here. And on a usual day you probably wouldn't see much water there from this vantage point, but because it's rained so much, that lake has swollen to probably 5 or 6 times its size, and we are able to see it from Pinda, which is unbelievable. And beyond it, you can see on the horizon what looks like a mountain range that's quite dark against the clouds, and even some rain.
It's no secret that nature can heal. Some of our WildEarth viewers are finding solace in the outdoors close to their homes during lockdown.
This is how I keep myself busy during lockdown. Beautiful little jumping spot.
I love walking in the open spaces near my home. Provides a moment of peace in a crazy world.
This is my fire escape with some of the birds I get to see. That's what it's like in New York City during lockdown.
Being in nature helps me to cope with the challenges of life and helps me to be humble and grateful.
It's magical watching everything turn into a winter wonderland as the snow softly falls.
Been doing lots of walking, dog walking, outside at parks.
This is my Ridgeback Drake. Our little slice of paradise is a provincial park called Hopewell Ross.
Connecting with nature is critical to stay positive during these tough times. WildEarth encourages you all to find time to escape to nature.
We stopped as the dusk was settling, and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it. Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine. This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like Impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feeds.
And so we found most probably the first herd of Impala in in the first couple of days, actually. Impalas, there's not a huge amount of them in the Kalahari, but yet in the Green Kalahari, as we spoke about it this morning, it does support quite a lot of life in this particular region. So you do get the odd situation every now and again where you do get impalas in this particular region, but mostly along the mountains and the valley sections in between. But now, as we spoke about it earlier, there's some more movement, obviously, in amongst the thickets and in the mountain sections at the moment due to the wind in the plains being a bit of a limiting factor. But yet, there's our first herd of impala. What I'm going to do is, I'm just going to pull past this bush a bit forward and just see if we can move a bit forward. Actually, you can see how that impala is just pushed up to the top of the branches there. Just see how he's trying to feed on the top edges of the branches. There's a couple of more coming out. Now, what this impala herd is doing around here is, you can see this is all males. And so what's happening is that as they're all representing, literally having horns in this particular area, you can actually see that they're all just in what you call a bachelor unit. And this bachelor unit, they're all just standing strong together, helping each other out. And it gets to a situation that they protect each other for more eyes in the particular environment, for safety numbers, as you can see. But yeah, eventually, once we get to breeding time, which is typically, again, for most of your, well, for most of the time in the year, it gets to about, for most antelope, to May, well, specifically over to May, June, you could get some of the animals, well, antelope mating, and especially the kudu. You would get those animals would be starting to mate in that time. But anyway, so if it gets closer to that time, it gets to a point that these bachelor herds would sometimes start to challenge each other. And then the winner male would literally become a territorial male in this particular region of females in a given area. But yeah, beautiful to see impala males like this in the Kalahari as well. So impalas are such, well, widely distributed animals all over Africa that you do get a small population, like I said earlier, that has leaped into this section of the Kalahari as well. But not something you see every day in the Kalahari. Pretty cool. Very nicely displayed the counter shading on that impala. You can see the top end of the back is much darker brown than the bottom section, and that is typically, that boundary line is to create a flat appearance on the body itself. And especially impala being mixed feeders, feeding on the grasses in a certain environment as well as the leaves on the trees in this area, they would blend in with that flat appearance to that given area. And typically when animals like lions come through in this area, they would sort of battle to actually see this, to individualize and see, individualize on a specific one and saying, well, this is one I can see and this is the one I'm going to go for. So it's one of the mechanisms for survival for this particular species as well in this area. Just munching their way along as they go. Donnie, you've just asked a very cool question. You asked, does the cheetah have a huge impact on the impala population? You know what? The impalas actually do pretty well in these mountains. And if you look at the cheetah distribution or where they live generally and where the biggest population of them are at, it's mostly in the dunes. Whereas if you think about the impala, where they mostly live is around the mountains. You could get every now and again cheetah passing through those valley sections where those impala live, and yes, they do get taken down every now and again by a cheetah here and there. But the bottom line is, yeah, the cheetahs, they focus more on springbok and young other animals and so on in the dune fields, for instance, where they typically live. But yeah, I wouldn't say that our impala population is under a threat due to cheetah. I would say the dogs, every now and again, being quite flexible with where they need to go from areas and time to time. It gets to a point where they could sometimes take Impala down as well. But Impala is a sharp antelope. They got extremely good eyesight. If you look at those eyes and the ears focusing on that particular area where that specific male now is looking back to the south, you can see the eyes are situated sort of on the sides of the head, typically for your herbivores, because that eyes, as he's looking like that, as he's turning his head now, the eyes are on a, I want to say like a all way around the head type of vision, with that eyes being on the sides of the head. So if he turns his head, he can look all the way around him, seeing from all different directions. Obviously, with fantastic visual being all the way around, he could actually see then or know about animals coming from a long distance from any direction. But at the same time as well, they've got fantastic hearing as well. But again, at the end of the day, being a herd-like antelope, being an animal that live in these, especially if they're not part of a female herd, being a territorial male of that female herd, it comes down to that they will at least stick to these bachelor herds. And having fantastic senses, like I've explained with this particular way, with the eyesight, gets to a point that they are well covered in that matter. So yeah, Impalas, they can look after themselves pretty nicely as well. As opposed to your predators, you would find that their eyes are obviously to the front of their head, being more of a binocular vision, being for long distance scanning. If you look at your cheetah and wild dogs, all of your predators actually. But yeah, what a gorgeous ram that is actually. Everybody's actually commenting, saying they look like they're in such good condition. I couldn't agree more. They're doing actually fantastically well. It is what it is. The vegetation is just supporting life so much in the green Kalahari, and so with that in it all, it comes down to that beautiful shiny coat. And this is not just an Impala, especially as well. I mean, you would think this Impala would be looking a bit smaller, but indeed, it is actually doing really, really well. And it doesn't say that they don't belong here. It's like I said earlier, Impalas, they do pretty well in the valley sections of the Kruger Mountains in this area. So Gary, you've just asked how much would an Impala weigh? That's a very interesting question. Now, if you look at a life-size Impala like that, for instance, you would be looking at something like anything between 45 to 55 kilograms, and then obviously fully grown. Now this is a young male that we're looking at right now, but they can get much bigger than that, even with a nice horn spread being flaring out to the sides, and a body even becoming a bit bigger. So you could easily get that body going up to a good, you can even push it to 60 kilograms actually. But yeah, they do really well. And obviously with conditions like this, oh, look at that. He's actually showing off for us a bit. Conditions like this, they can maintain that nice weights actually. The average weight on them is roughly around 45 to 50 kilograms. But a medium-sized antelope to a small-sized antelope. Because obviously, if you look at other antelope, they become like antelope, like the like kudu, for instance, roan, oryx, eland. All of those are much heavier. So this is why this is classified as a small to medium-sized antelope. Nicanova, you're asking why don't you find any elephants in the green Kalahari? You know what? It's actually a situation of where I've touched actually the subject a bit this morning, where if you look at the ecosystem of the Green Kalahari, it stretches from this northwestern corner of South Africa, then it leaps over to Botswana majority, and then it goes over to Namibia's northern sections. And then in that area, it actually gets to a point where it then touches and boundaries the southern end of an area called Damaraland, which is the Rocky Desert in Namibia. So how it goes is that plenty of years ago, when there used to be no fence lines between the boundaries of different countries on the African continent, they used to migrate through this massive ecosystem from the Rocky Desert up in the north of the Kalahari. Well, that's on the northern boundary of the Kalahari on the northern tip, all the way through this massive ecosystem and all the way down to here, the desert elephants. So then they never really stayed in this particular area for longer than 4 or 5 days to up to about a month or so. It happened where they always used to migrate back up north to the Damaraland, to the Rocky Desert. And that is where the very well-known desert elephants are known for, to be actually living in that area, specifically for Namibia. But yeah, if you think about the bigger picture, if you talk about reintroductions of elephants, desert elephants in a reserve like this, now this reserve is big enough to actually maintain a small herd of desert elephants if you wish. But if you think about it, it gets to a point that if an animal truly only migrated and traveled through here at given times, then it gets to a point that it will then specifically go to areas. Sorry guys, there's a vehicle of our security vehicles possibly coming past. But yeah, coming back to that situation, you possibly could say, okay, well, if you introduce a small herd of desert elephants, it could get to a situation where they might demolish the area, because if they never invested to stay permanently, why would it be then a good thing to keep them permanently here? So then it's better to look at animals that truly belong in this environment and then go to other areas that makes other areas so much more special, like obviously the Damaraland in Namibia, or in the tropical regions in the eastern section of South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal, from Punda side all the way across to southern Kruger, all the way into the rest of Kruger. So the savanna elephants. And even in the Eastern Cape, you could get sometimes the tuskless elephants. But yeah, bottom line is, that's it. So we are going to send you to Ngala for the introduction.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, everyone. We're very wet and Beyond Ngala at that. This afternoon we've come out, we've just had a little bit of a break in the rain, and we've come out on the southern side of the Timbavati River, and we've managed to find a few male Impala, which I think is one. Oh, they got a little bit of a fright there, name of the game today. You can see that big Impala ram, the older one moving to the right there, quite a beautiful one. And you can see how clean his coat is with all the rain that's fallen. They really are looking lovely this afternoon. See how his head's right down, eating some grass there, and the younger male as well, both feeding. See how their heads occasionally pop up to just keep a bit of a lookout of what's going on. But good afternoon again. My name is Nick, and behind camera this afternoon we've got Odie. And yeah, it's a really beautiful day out here. We've had rain the whole day. The river has unfortunately become uncrossable this afternoon, so we won't be heading onto the northern side. But that's not the end of the world. There's still lots of game around, and nice to have started this afternoon with some Impala that have now moved off. And if Odie looks up there towards the clouds, you can see it's a very gloomy and Beyond Ngala. Very dark and grey, and the weather's been like this for the past 2 weeks almost, I'd say. It's water everywhere, mud everywhere, and nice and cool though, so the animals are moving around a lot more during the middle of the day. Makes them a little bit more tricky to find. And it's been interesting, the weather. There's been rains, sort of feels like you're out at ocean. There's squalls of rain coming through, quite big downpours, and then it clears out beautifully, and it actually heats up quite quickly. Our plan for this afternoon, we're gonna keep driving around, see what we can find. We weren't out this morning, so we don't know where the animals are and where they've been moving, but we really are hoping to find something interesting. That lioness that we've been viewing the last couple of days, the Birmingham lioness with her 3 young cubs on the Timbavati River. I'm sure we all got a chance to see them. I'm hoping that the mother was able to move those cubs away from the river before it has increased so much. It is a possible threat to them. There's a chance that they could get washed away by the floods, but we'll be crossing our fingers hoping that they don't. I don't know if you can see it in picture, but it is starting to rain again. It's another one of these little squalls coming through, and impalas don't seem to mind it too much. I think the rain has been a blessing for them this year. See how thick that grass is where they're feeding now. Even in the middle of the road, that impala ram is feeding on some grass. But for now, we're going to keep seeing what else we can find this afternoon, but we're going to send you over to Tswalu for now.
So, welcome back. We have decided just to drive further down the road here and just see what we can find. We've just received an update from some of the staff on Tswalu that there's a giraffe carcass further east on the reserve, and yes, there were some lions on that carcass. So the lions are up and down in that area, and it's unfortunately an area that is behind the mountain, so we're going to battle to pick up on some signal there, but yeah, maybe up and down between the carcass and the water we could be getting a spot where we could get them on the way to water. So I'm aiming for the water point further north. It doesn't sound like those lions are there at the moment on that carcass, but yeah, they're up and down between the water and that destination. So there's another water point just further north from here, and so we're gonna see if we can get something happening out there in that direction. We're also gonna get a very beautiful view as we're gonna come up to the dune top up front. Some beautiful little birds flying around all over the show around here. Lena Louise, you've just asked how many species of antelope is on Tswalu. That's a pretty good question. You'd be surprised that there's well over 12 different species on Tswalu actually. And that is obviously from small species like Steenbok all the way up to species like the eland and your spiral horned antelope specifically. But yeah, yes, there's quite a nice diversity on this particular property. It's just because the green Kalahari supports so much life in this area. Look at that gorgeous view that we're literally coming up to right now. Just stretching out in the distance. And it's just a complete different view as opposed to the dunes that we've driven this morning. We are coming over a slight bit of a rise of a dune here. But yeah, looking at the hills coming all across with this mixed environment in this area. So you can actually see that there's a very, very beautiful view with the mountains of the Kruger mixed up to the woodland environment down below, and obviously in the foreground you can actually see the savanna. So quite a nice combination in these eastern sections of the reserve as well as opposed to the western sections and central sections and so on. We touched on that subject a bit this morning, talking about the beautiful differences and diversity on the reserve itself. And that obviously giving us the availability to have a nice diversity of different species. That is what makes the green Kalahari so unique as well. There's a lot of deserts in the world that you can think about, like the Atacama Desert, or I'm just naming them, but you're thinking about the different areas, the different places that you can go to, where that specific desert would give you something that is quite unique to that particular environment, one specific thing or so. But you're thinking about an environment like this with 4 different ecoregions, giving you that vast diversity of an area like this. And obviously a vast diversity of different species. Then coming back to your question of the antelope species. That's truly a gorgeous landscape. So beautiful. And that is what makes South Africa so special as well, because you're looking at an environment like this that is announced as a desert, or semi-desert environment rather, and then you go to, for instance, the evergreen forest environments in the eastern section of the country, and it looks completely different again. And then you go to the savanna environments further northeast in the northern sections of Kruger and those areas, and then you get the foresty areas far north to the Limpopo borders and so on. And to the Namakwa region, further to the western sections of the country. I mean, it's just the diversity of this country is just, may I say, mind-blowing. It's just so incredible. But yeah, that is what makes this country so unique, looking at that diversity all coming together. Beautiful. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue sticking to our plan and continue to that nice waterhole coming up further down below. You have just asked if the grasses that we're literally looking at are ever used for weaving. There are some of the birds in the environment, if you mean weaving like weavers' nests and that sort of thing, yeah, for sure. Like you can see the finger grasses. If you look at this particular area, Morgan, I don't know if you can focus on the inflorescence of some of the grasses, or you can even come to my right hand side. You can see, look at that, typically the finger grass, and this is quite a hard stemmed grass as you look at it like that. But yeah, some of these inflorescences could be broken off by, especially like the white-browed sparrow weavers that we spoke about this morning, and could be used, but mostly if you go to the right a bit there, Morgan, there's the inflorescence of the bushman grasses, which is much softer material for them to use. So to build the nest, that is actually a bit of a better combination to make use of for most of the nests in the area. But yeah, pretty good question. A lot of things in the Kalahari gets utilized by a lot of components and a lot of organisms. A lot of things in this ecosystem goes hand in hand together, where it helps each other out. This ecosystem works quite strongly like a strong chain full of shackles. And all of these shackles in this chain is working so strongly together, helping each other out, supporting each other in that way. Take one of those shackles out and the whole entire chain might collapse. Not might, actually will collapse. So yeah, it's a pretty special ecosystem. Very, very awesome. A lot of these larks actually flying up and down from the road in front of us, and what they're doing is, as we're driving, we're actually disturbing some insects actually from the grasses and so that's on the edge of the road, and they actually often fly around us as it is to catch some of the insects that's flying up as we go. It's quite interesting. There's some butterflies coming across there as well. Yeah. just check the branches of this beautiful shepherd's tree. I'm sorry, Jared, I just missed that comment. Could you hear that, Morgan? I wonder. Wonder if they're going to be losing us. You can see how some of the grasses in this area is coming quite nicely. Some of the bushman grasses in amongst the blackthorns and the shrubs in this area coming up quite nicely displayed. Look at what we've just found. A sleepy male lion, as we literally just arrived. So beautiful as we just spoke about it. I'm very glad that myself and Morgan made the decision to actually continue coming down this road. As I said to you, we literally had that giraffe carcass about another 6 kilometers to our east here, and that giraffe carcass between there and this water point. As I mentioned earlier, the possibilities are strong that we could pick up on some of these lions in this area. And there it is. What you're literally looking at right now is one of the rarest lion species that you'll ever see in your entire life. So what this is all about, I must just say, like, we're literally just being surprised by this lion because it was so flat in the grass. We literally had this male lion literally picking himself up in front of us right now. So yeah, it was quite a surprise. But anyways, as we made that instinctive decision, there it is. One of the beautiful giants of the Kalahari that is really a strong gem to this particular environment. It really comes down to this cat being a very important species to this ecosystem, as there are keystone species to this environment. Beautiful, so gorgeous. I'm going to just pull a bit forward and see if we can get a bit of a better visual here, and see if we can clear out that beautiful dark black mane. Morgan, you can tell me if you got a bit of a better visual there. How's that? The light's a bit hectic from the side here, but the thing is, it looks like this is our clearest open view in this particular spot. It looks like this guy literally just came from the water, which we spoke about, and then came along towards this small little shady tree here and just flopped down on the edge of the road. So what's so special about this is looking at, oh, bless you. Most probably got a bit of a grass seed, of the high amounts of grass seeds in the area, in his nose and his nostrils there most probably. So what makes this lion so special to this particular environment is the simple fact that you're literally looking at desert lions being, their numbers dropping quite dramatically in Africa. And the reason being to that is just land loss of habitat, as it is mostly what it comes down to. And plenty of years ago, there used to be quite a lot of numbers of desert lions in Namibia itself, and even to central Kalahari Desert, and even Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park. In those areas, you would have had a situation where there was quite a lot of them roaming in that area. But yeah, unfortunately, it is what it is. Mankind takes over certain landscapes and areas and so on, and some of the animals' numbers do come down due to land loss. But yeah, coming back to Tswalo specifically, this is one of our main high-profile species in this particular environment. Reason for that is because they are so important to this ecosystem. Coming back to why they are keystone species, being an apex predator, is that they control the population of not just your herbivorous animals or species in this environment, but it all comes down to also the bigger picture of controlling other predators and themselves as well. And so it creates, furthermore, a bigger, better balance.
Chance to win regular travel prizes. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website, but once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephant, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalo, Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite bird has to be the sociable weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
So here we're just looking at that dark mane that we were talking about earlier on. As I said to you, there's quite a bit of researchers that's been doing quite a bit of research on this particular well, shall I say, structure of black mane on the Kalahari lions. You could actually see quite a lot of darkness on the outer coat, but even on the inner coat, it's got two different types of layers on this coat. And the findings from these researchers are that the outer layer is almost acting like a cage or sort of center of attraction from the dark color as it is, catching up this sharp intensity of sunlight as it is, and then the inner layer, it almost reduces the temperature towards the veins that flows along the neck, which is coming from the heart, flowing with the arteries up to the brain being the most important organ of this particular animal, or of most animals in the Kalahari. The brain is the most important organ. And it gets to a point that if that brain is cooled down by oxygenated blood, just because of the function of the mane being present, then it gets to a point that this animal is functioning perfectly in this hot, dry, specific ecosystem as it is. But yeah, that is why the Kalahari lions, by norm, have got such a beautiful dark mane. It's one of the adaptations that they have. But the other thing is, I mean, you get other lions in Africa that's got quite dark manes as well. But it's actually got a funny, interesting way of thinking and looking at it as it is. I don't know if you ever heard about the saying where people say, you give me grey hair, in the case of human beings. And so human beings that goes through a lot of stress in their life, and unnecessary stress, and shall I say, a lot of confrontation in their life, it gets to a point that they actually it has an effect on your heart, and furthermore, it has an effect on your pigmentation of your hair, and you could actually go grey, if I could put it that way. So, coming back to lions and pulling it away from humans, a male lion like this in this condition, sleeping flat out, it gets to a point that this animal, being in this relaxed position, could easily be surprised by a random male that comes and walks into the area. And so it gets to that point, if that random male walks into the area, that sudden, well, you get to a situation where that sudden surprise is surprising him so much that there's a sudden rise of testosterone shooting sky high through the rooftops. And that sudden surprise gets to a point that it has an influence on the pigmentation of the fur and the coat of the mane. And so it comes back to what we spoke about humans being grey. So it is with lions, the mane just becomes dark, pitch black and dark in color. So yes, it is. You do get male lions that will become much darker due to a lot of confrontation over time as it goes on. And the more confrontation they get, the more darker the mane possibility could become. But it doesn't get nearby the darkness level of what Kalahari lions could get up to. Reasoning behind that is because you get the Kalahari lions, the true bloodlines of Kalahari lions gets to a point that you get overall the body, it's quite a dark appearance. You see lions that you have seen on the show even before and whatsoever, and for those of you that likes to travel on safari as well, you would have seen lions before appearing quite golden in color, golden, yellow, orangey colors and so, whereas this is a very dark appearance. Over the entire body, you will get a fine tint of dark hair coming over. But then at the end of the day, coming back to the mane, you got by norm the dark mane as to obviously that adaptation by normalities is how they survive and their survival mechanism through that mane and temperature regulatory systems. By norm, the mane will become darker because of the true bloodline having the influences on the genes, and that obviously influence the pigmentation on the fur itself. And then on top of that, you get the confrontation structures happening that would then obviously color the mane on top of the gene coloration, if I can put it that way. So it's two coloring factors that comes and plays a bigger role in that matter. And that is why the Kalahari lions are so beautifully, darkly, impressively looking, if I can put it that way. Jeez, guys, this is an absolute blessing just to see this animal representing himself like this to us. One of the rarest of rare of lions to be able to see on safari. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, for sure. He is so stunning looking. Look at that impressive looking mane there as well. I mean, yes, he's quite a relaxed guy at the moment, just flat out on his back, and lions typically do this to open up the flow of their digestive system lying on their back. And this you get in Kalahari lions, you get this in average normal African lions as it is. But yeah, quite interestingly enough, they do this to help the digestive flow and ease things out a bit. It's the same as us going to a good restaurant and you eat a nice piece of steak and you go back to home, you feel like you just want to carry on horizontally on your bed and you literally just clear out the digestive flow and you feel a bit better. It's exactly the same thing happening. To explain it in an easy, common way, that's how it goes. So he doesn't do that unnecessarily just by coincidence, if I can put it that way. It's literally just what it is. It's how he helps his digestive tract itself. Renata, you asking how many lion prides do we have on Tswalu? So we, on a reserve this size and being this big actually, we've got 2 big lion prides. Now coming back to what we spoke about this morning, we said that the way to survive in the Kalahari, and you'll hear me talking a lot about this, is specifically the way to survive is teamwork, family units and partnerships. So you get rather larger lion prides, big packs of wild dogs as they progress over time. Big cheetah coalitions, big lion coalitions. And this guy, by the way, he actually does belong to a coalition of a couple of males in this area actually. But yeah, every now and again they do split up. But coming back to your question, 2 lion prides. We just out of identification purpose from a territorial point of view, it's a northern pride and a southern pride. You might have heard about the northern and southern pride from previous broadcasts. But yeah, this guy's, as I said, he's belonging to a coalition, and they rule and regulate this land. Well, in charge of these prides, coming and going between the 2 prides as it is. And the northern pride is about close to over 10 animals now. I know there's some newborn cubs in that pride as well. It's quite far up north into the reserve that they've recently been seen about 4 days ago or so. But the southern pride, they roam the areas that right in the beginning of the afternoon where we've driven. That's the reason why we've driven there, because we wanted to also see if we can pick up on the southern pride in the south. But yeah, southern pride is also well over 10 animals in that pride. They actually, if I'm correct, because there's a lot of newborn cubs that was in that area as well with that pride. I think they're approaching 15 lions now shortly. But yeah, nice big size prides, again, because that's the way to survive. That's the technique. So they build with the young lions, they build skill and knowledge, and they train them quite nicely. And then it gets to a point furthermore where they get to success and survival. At the end of the day, everything goes around with survival. And that is what's more important than things like mating and all of that. At the end of the day, in an environment like this, even though it doesn't look as tough as we're saying it is, talking about the greenery and the amount of greenery in the environment, talking about this particular area, it is still a tough environment. So there's ways to survive and there's ways to do it. And the ways to do it is exactly that. So lions can sleep for a good 16 to 20 hours a day. And the reasoning behind that is because they have such a high diet in protein that they need to sleep the right adequate amount of hours to digest the right amount of protein. So for whenever they get active, they have gained the right amount of energy for the next time when they get active. So in the Kalahari, they do sleep also quite a bit, but I would suggest we stick with this male lion for this afternoon, because yes, it's still quite early in the afternoon, especially out here, but I'd say because this guy is part of the coalition, he's going to maybe contact all a bit later on towards sunset. Alrighty folks, so there's a tiny bit of a bad news situation happening, but we will definitely come back to you tomorrow. And the thing is, apparently the other reserves have got quite a lot of bad weather, but I'm glad we could show you this beautiful Kalahari desert male lion in this particular area. And thinking about this particular beautiful animals, we will continue going with them tomorrow morning. But yeah, the thing is, we will come back to you tomorrow morning with the show again, as we are the only broadcast for the afternoon. But yeah, we will come back to you. Remember, we will be live tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock Central African time, and we will see you then.
to litter my cats for you all.
Talamati Pride is manning the dam camp today. The lions are all behind you at the moment. Walking a moment. Wind and where the lions were to pick up on the buffalo from here because we tracks didn't really follow up on them because we were in a low signal. Back. That would be able to get a hunt. Really nice. Still a lot. Salad. Sarah, before a couple of weeks ago, not often, probably a handful of times that I know of, might be more than that, but they used to come in and out again. I think the Unkuhumas have seemed to have pushed a little bit more south, and so that sort of range changes, the territory and the seasonal movement changes. And, well, they came to this waterhole the other day and got 3 wildebeest, so I think they're thinking to themselves, I like that store, let's go back, shall we? Okay, so it looks like the hunt has dwindled for now, so let's go reposition so we can actually show you these lions looking so beautiful in the light. And there is an avoca male with them as well. Avoca male with them as well, so I think it's dark man, but we just had a very brief look at him before coming down, and then we quickly zoom to follow, and he's the first one we found. Just looking at us. I didn't get a proper look at him, I just kept driving, because you always know the male lion's at the back, the rest of the pride is in front. Go find ourselves a nice shady spot that they all spread over here. Typical, we found them and they started spreading out, so we got into position for a hunt. Right in front of Vuetela Lodge. So if you were a guest right now, you could be sitting on your deck here watching lions moving through. No guest in camp at the moment. We're just going to position so we're not so in the sun. Unfortunately, that's going to be tricky. There we go. Now, it looks like Blondie, to be honest. He's at the back over here, the big male. At my 12 o'clock, you should see him there. There might even be 2, but I can't actually tell at the moment with the way he's sitting. At my 12 o'clock, bless. There we go, at the back, the big one. No, here we go, there he is. Now, it's hard to tell at the moment. They've all grown so much, the 3 evokers. saw a video from Simbambili the other night. One of my friends, Brett Hawley's guests, sent a video of two male lions fighting, and one had a very prominent limp in his front right leg. And I'm pretty sure that was Darkman. He was getting a little bit of a beat down by a male I didn't recognize. And we can go over to these lions over here then. The whole Talamati pride. Okay, well, we're going to stay with the Talamatis as the wind is gusting and blowing in their face. I'll count to see if they're all here. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Punda and beyond Punda with a bird. Welcome back, and we have found one of the more special birds in South Africa. So with Punda being located up here in Zululand, we are quite close to the Indian Ocean, where in southern Africa it's probably one of the more southerly regions that we get blue-cheeked bee-eaters, and that's what we have here. You can see it perched over this beautiful grassland, which is where you usually find blue-cheeked bee-eaters. They like to spend their times in open savanna and grasslands. If you look closely, you'll see just above and below its eye, it's got two beautiful iridescent blue streaks, where I presume it gets its name from. It's an interesting bird because it travels long distances to get here. It arrives in about October and it'll leave most likely at the end of this month, and it'll go back up to Eastern Europe and Western Asia, where it will breed. And it'll spend the summer months there, and before winter arrives there, it'll come back down south to southern African regions again. I'm not sure if it'll come to the exact same spot, but it is interesting that they travel such long distances. And with these moist, grassy areas that they spend a lot of their time in, they prefer eating bees and dragonflies and other insects. They actually catch them while they're flying. And if you notice its long bill, that actually helps it, like bees, which obviously have quite a horrible sting on them. So that long bill helps them keep the bee far away from their bodies, so it's not able to sting them. So when they do catch one, they'll then rub it up against a perch that they'll be standing on once they've caught it, until the sting is gone, and then they'll swallow it. You can see it's got a beautiful yellow throat, which then turns to a more browner color as you go further down, and a lovely olive green color on the top of its back. Kerry said that this is a new bird for her. Although I have seen it here on Punda a few times, it's one of the less common birds that we get here on the reserve. Because it's such a specialized bird, you don't find it all over the reserve. So you'll have to look in certain parts of the reserve to see them. And obviously they're only here for a few months of the year, so I'm also quite excited to have come across it. It looks like for now it's just resting. It'll take quite a lot of energy to fly around all the time trying to catch insects. And you can see that it's probably just waiting for possibly something to fly by until it sees something, and then it might go off and chase it. Lauren, I presume it's just found a little bit of a gap somewhere. It does look like it isn't very comfortable, but being quite a small animal, and it doesn't weigh a lot either, so it's probably just found a gap between some of the thorns. Lauren asked, how is it standing on that
It's amazing, though, that they're able to actually land there. Imagine coming in from flying, and then you have to be able to be, wow, some beautiful color under their wing too, which we got to see for a moment there. So I was just saying how amazing it is for it to be able to move from flying to, oh, wonderful. Now that it's flown away, we're going to send you off to Steve, who has some lions.
Welcome back, everybody, where the Talamati Pride is all here in the open, and they're seeing something that I'm not. A couple of the lionesses are very low to the ground, doing some stalking movements. There's a lot of interest amongst them. I'm almost certain this is Darkmane, the big male. Now, he got up and moved. And look at the size of him. He is a big boy. Just going to guide someone else into the sighting. Yeah, you're most welcome to join. Just come down the middle road from Quarantine towards the dam, and you should see us all on the left-hand side in the shade.
Thank you, Steve.
Isn't he a magnificent fellow? Now, he walked up and there was a little bit of head rubbing and with some of the youngsters there, which is very cool to see. He's definitely the father of the cubs of this pride. And he's been with this pride for ages. We know the Vokas, everybody. 3 males have been in the area for just under 3 years now. And all 3 of them were sort of all over the place between the prides, and Darkmane, after sustaining a injury right here at this dam itself after hunting a buffalo, the whole pride, the Nkuhumas were here. He was then also mating with the other females of the Nkuhumas that have got cubs now, but he injured his right front foot very, very badly. He's never recovered from it, but he's still able to move and still able to do his thing. But since then, since after that mating period, he's pretty much been with the Talamatis since. And up until the other day when we had the Talamatis on Djuma for about a week, we didn't see him. I think he was off looking for his brothers. I think he went and had a bit of a boys' weekend with the bros. And he's now come back to do his duties. Or maybe he realizes, bless you, maybe he realizes it's, bless you, thank you, better off being 1 male lion in a pride than 3. Because these ladies, although they are competitive, they don't compete nearly as much as big males do. Kirsty, I've never seen them specifically using the tracks of the prey. They will smell animals. They definitely track their family down by smelling the ground for the tracks they've left behind. But I wouldn't say that they physically follow tracks. They follow scent. And they might use the same pathways that animals use, but that's just because it's easy. Just like we drive on roads, animals drive or walk on open areas. They're very visual, and they pick up on a lot of scent. Hearing is also important as well, but right now they've been moving because the wind is coming directly towards them from the watering hole. That lone buffalo is somewhere down the drag. I'm not sure where Lauren had him, but he was here yesterday, and then he was just down the road this morning. So I'm not sure where he is this afternoon, but that is exactly the individual that a pride of lions like this is looking for. And when they've got a big male with them, although it's a big male buffalo, big male like that, just look at the size of him. He brings on a lot of power, a lot of strength, and it's weight, really. When it comes to buffalo hunting, especially with big bulls, they want to pull them down. They want to get their haunches on the ground as soon as possible, because it takes away the danger element. A buffalo that's got all 4 legs on the ground is a powerhouse, and they keep turning and hitting with those very powerful, sharp horns. And I know it seems quite sad for our poor buffalo, but I've no doubt that he's experienced a lion pride before. And as I said before, the buffalo that was killed a while ago, 2 years ago now, this male here got a very bad injury because of it. So it's not all easy. It's not all easy for these animals. Lions get injured. Buffalo get injured and killed. Lions get killed as well. Kenny, well, the average Impala, say a big Impala, let's just work on 50 kilograms. Now, each of these lions probably can eat about 35 to 40 kilograms in a sitting. So they'll each need an Impala for them to be happy. Obviously, they're never happy. They're only happy when they kill large prey. So bearing in mind, a lot of the female Impala are smaller. The babies are even smaller still. And there's definitely some movement. These lionesses definitely starting to see something I can't quite make out. But they're looking at each other's behavior. We always talk about how do lions know what they're doing. They look at each other. We look at them. You can clearly see the black tips of the ears. When they're pointing back, you kind of know exactly what direction, exactly pinpoint the eyes of the lion are looking. And with that in mind, they can then pinpoint strategy. They know exactly. It's kind of like in the army, in the military, when they've got these hand signals, to that way, to that way, to that way. Lions do that on their own by just looking at the individual's movement. See, this one now is looking at how her sister's moving. She's judging her line, and then she will work it on as well. Now, we haven't seen what they're looking at. I've clearly seen something. There were Impala we saw before when we first started that had moved off. There might be a Nyala. There might be some of those kuru we saw yesterday hiding in the thickets. I think I'm going to turn here before something happens. Let me just turn so we can face back that way, because I'm pretty sure if something happens, we don't want to have to turn too much then. And while the rest are doing their hunting, big male lion lying on his back. You can just see him in frame there, lying on his back. He's not going to do much until it all breaks down. Okay, so I'm just going to stop here, maybe back slightly, so we can shoot straight forward there. And then at least I'll be able to use my binoculars now. You can show this beautiful belly of this male. He's not concerned. He knows he's close enough to catch up with the food if it's needed. If the lionesses do manage to corner a buffalo, he'll eventually grudgingly catch up with them and be like, okay, fine, I'll put my weight in and help you pull it down. But for now, he doesn't have to do much. He just has to wait, as with the youngsters at the back here as well. To the young males there, they learn, okay, this is what Dad does. This is what I have to aspire to. Okay, so let's go back off of them now. Directly in front, between the three lionesses that are sort of making movements. That one over there.
Welcome back to And Beyond Plinda. We haven't gone far from where we were with you and that blue cheek bee eater, and we have got another view of this beautiful elephant bull. So he's in the same place as he was earlier when we saw him. He's just moved a tiny bit. You can imagine there's a lot of food around here, so he doesn't have to move very far. And he's probably been here for a good part of the day, eating this grass. So elephants are big animals, and I mentioned how they like to eat this nutritious grass in the wetter months of the year, but they still have to eat a lot of food to be able to sustain those huge bodies of theirs. And this looks like abundance for him right now. It's not very difficult for him to get enough food for the day. He just has to stand in one place and carry on eating, basically. You can see how he's using his trunk to wrap it around that long grass that he's standing in. Looks like he's feeling around. There we go. And then he'll bring it up into his mouth. It's amazing that they are able to use their trunk to be able to feel and grab, and it's got a lot of different nerves and muscles in it, and obviously a very important part of an elephant's lifestyle. I have heard stories of elephants though that have had part of the end of their trunks actually cut off by having been caught in snares, for example, and they're still able to adapt and survive, which just shows how tough and hardy they are. You can see if you look at his ears, they are flapping quite often, but you'll be able to see that they're quite tattered and shredded on the ends. And I mentioned earlier how when they do get a bit older is when they'll move off eventually on their own. So it's likely that he's at least 30 years old. It's difficult to tell from here because he's quite a distance away. But being 30 years old, it's a substantial amount of time living and moving around in the bush, and that'd be a reason why his ears are so tattered like that from moving through thick bushes and thorns. Eventually they'd scratch him and just wear away at the tips of his ears. I mentioned he's flapping them, and that'll just help him cool down. He's been standing in the sun, and that just helps move air over the back of them where the skin on an elephant's body is the thinnest, and they'll actually pump their warm blood through those dense network of capillaries behind its ear, and through flapping it, then they'll use the movement of the air over the ears to cool down the blood. Jane, I presume that they do, because it'll be wounds over the years that actually cause that to happen. Quite beautiful here. You'll see there's a lot of barn swallows flying around over the grass in front of him and behind him, and they'll also just be they'll catch insects on the wing, which means while they're flying, and they'll basically just be waiting for little insects to hop up above the grass, which they'll grab. These swallows, just like the blue-cheeked bee-eater we saw earlier, don't breed here in southern Africa, but they head up to Europe where they'll breed in the European summer. Raphael, yes, elephants do lie down, but not very often. So I've seen them lie down in mud wallows before, and sometimes
during the night to rest, but usually the older elephants don't lie down. They're obviously very heavy as they get older, and I'm not sure how true this is, but I've heard that they can actually suffocate themselves if they do lie down for too long when they're very, very big, because of all that weight crushing on their ribs. I think it's quite difficult to prove that exactly, but they do lie down, not for very long periods. You can see how much he's moving his tail as well, and that tail reaches almost all the way down to the ground. And the reason why he'd be moving it is just to try and get rid of flies that would be landing all over his body now. Such a special privilege to be able to see elephants in the wild, and in a setting like this makes it even more special. In these big wide open areas you really get to get a bit of a perspective of how big they are. This elephant is a good few hundred meters away from us, and it's still quite a prominent piece of the landscape that I'm looking at now. We're looking east at the moment, and you can see there's beautiful puffy storm clouds brewing up above the Indian Ocean, which is only about 30 kilometers away from Pinda. Cheese. Elephants are often away from their herds. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, the last time we saw him, that males do usually move away from their herds when they get older, and that's why we are probably seeing him here off on his own. I can see that his tusks are not huge, but they are relatively big, and just by the size of his head, looks like he's at that age where he's a bull that would live the rest of his life, or most of his life, on his own at the moment. He would have grown up in a herd, and he's moved off now. He will meet up with them sporadically from time to time. So we're going to keep on moving. Hopefully we can try and find some cheetah in this open area, but we're going to send you off to Steve, who has some lights.
Open area with cats in it. I wonder what that looks like. Here we have the Talamati Pride in the open. And you see how long a lot of the grass is over here, how easily a pride of lion can disappear. And that's why they're able to kill 3 wildebeest so easily the other day. Very, very easily. We'll come to these ones over here in the sunshine. Obviously we are joined by other vehicles. Here's one of the old girls here. And we're just chatting with one of the landowners there that said, oh, it's such an easy pride to identify because they've got the one with the purple eye. And as we all know, the Nkuhuma pride has got purple eye with the exact same blind eye. It's very interesting. Hear the wind You can see it blowing in the grass. These conditions are very suitable for animals to hunt. And when you are a pride this size, with a tag-along big male lion, then that is the camp just behind everybody with a low-profile fence. Then you know you need lots of eating. I think I said dark mane. Dark mane is the biggest of the three brothers. He's the one who has been with them for quite some time. At least a year and a half, I would say. It was August, a year and a half ago, that he injured himself. And he's pretty much, since he mated with Chela, into September, October of that year, been with this pride. Not that I saw him all the time. I always remember people in the north calling them in, the Talamati pride with one avoca. We'd always spend time with the two brothers would always be here. But everything's gone quiet once again. Spurts of energy followed by cat naps. Okay, well, an animal that I think lions would really struggle to catch is the famous springbok.
So there's one of these four bachelors. They're the one that one there. He's also got an umbel on his head. It's actually a creeper, but maybe he's taking my chandelier / headdress to the next level. And he was busy horning the bush, and he landed up picking his head up, and then he's doing it again, and then he landed up with vegetation on his head. So don't worry, buddy, I know what that feels like. So they'll have a scent gland on their face, and then rubbing that on the bushes, but at the same time, that's also like a little sort of a posturing. He's just displaying, and he doesn't necessarily have another springbok to take his frustrations out on, so sometimes they just do it on the bushes. And just keeping themselves nice and meticulously clean. Good to go. He's nice and clean now. So, Henry's asking the question, how high can they pronk? So pronking, when we talk about pronking, it means stiffening all four legs and then sort of bouncing up and down. And I've seen springbok pronk, probably if I had to sort of put it in line with a vehicle, easily at about this height, if they're under super stress and they want to jump really high. And it's really awesome. It's like lots of popcorn. I call it like bouncing popcorn, if they want to pronk. So there's another type of behavior that's similar to pronking, but they call it stotting, which we see more typically in Impala, is when they go in like a rocking horse motion, so sort of two front legs, two back legs, and they bounce. That's known as stotting, whereas stiffened forelegs up and down, what the springbok do tend to do, is known as pronking. We see them do it, sometimes they do it just because they can in the early morning, and sometimes they also do it just after some rains. And if they get a fright, or if they're displaying to a predator to say, well, look how fit I am, you're not necessarily going to easily be able to catch me. So that's just literally a little bachelor group of 4 springbuck there. They're also in a very nice open clearing, so if that cheetah, for example, happened to come in this direction, it would be very difficult for her to approach them and catch them now, because they get her visual easily in this nice open clearing, which is why the springbuck do tend to typically like to live in these open clearings, as they have very good visibility. But at night, that does make them vulnerable, and some cheetah do hunt at night. Some of them will use the moon and move at night, and then they are vulnerable that way. Laura Moore is commenting that they have such handsome markings. Absolutely, they're beautiful. Sort of like a little racing stripe on the side, and that's also known as counter shading, when they're darker one color on the top and lighter one color on the bottom. With springbuck living in the more arid environments, it definitely helps reflect heat away from the vital organs and help keep their temperature down, and also definitely help them with their sort of thermoregulation. Because they're definitely not camouflaged when they're out on a green, grassy plain like they are at the moment. But at a long distance, often they're almost in that sort of mirage, that sort of haze that you get on the horizon. Springbuck are actually very difficult to see. If it's the red soils and you've got that mirage on the horizon and springbuck far away, then they actually almost disappear into that. So there they're showing you that they both browse as well as graze. So that means that they are mixed feeders. Those little tails are working overtime there, getting rid of all the flies. So for them, the advantage of being 4 bachelors together is sort of a safety in numbers thing. Daniela is asking how you can identify a springbuck's gender. So both male and female have got horns, but the male's horns tend to be much thicker at the base, and then they curve right inwards, and the females tend to have a lot thinner horns. These are all 4 males, but there are some young males in there where the horns are actually still pointing forwards, as opposed to sort of in that question mark shape. And then sometimes, if you can see on the belly, it's a bit difficult here, but you see a little sort of like a bump, which is the penis sheath, and then also between the legs. So they're just moving along, they're just heading south at the moment. So they won't necessarily need to drink water every single day. They're getting enough moisture from the food sources that they're eating. And in the morning, sometimes there's also the dew on the grasses. So by eating the grasses, they are getting additional moisture from that as well. And sometimes if they've been lying down overnight and they've got that moisture or the dew on their skin, they'll also then groom themselves and then get some of the moisture from there. Evan, age 9, is asking the question, how old can springbuck get? Probably about 9, 10 years old. They're relatively small antelope, So even your larger antelope, like kudu, maybe at maximum would be about 14. So springbok around about 9, 10. So just a little bit older than you are. Just you can see the beautiful cloud build-up again, so we are anticipating potential rain again in some of the sections of the reserve later on this evening. So we're going to send you now. Lauren has a nest to show you.
We've just came to check on our battalier, who's still sitting in the nest, this exact same nest. Now what I want to see, of course, is a chick. We see juvenile battaliers around, but I want to see a newly hatched chick. Looks absolutely nothing like the adult, and I think it would be so lovely to follow it. But so far, I only see the adult. I imagine this is a female. There's high level of investment in maternal and paternal care, but generally speaking, the female spends more time on the nest. I'm going to guess this is a female. If she stands up, we'll be able to see, of course. But I've never seen her feeding or bending down or any sort of movement that would suggest there's a chick inside. Now, as I mentioned the other day, the incubation period is 55 days. So it's almost 2 months. That's quite a long time. So she could still just be incubating one little egg. But the males do incubate too, so I'm probably wrong in assuming that this is a female. It actually might not be the female. I don't see any movement. I'm going to keep checking, because I just think it would be so, so lovely to see that little creamy head pop up. But it actually takes 6 weeks if it's building the nest from scratch. And they don't always do that. They can reuse a nest for anywhere between 3 to 5 years, similar to the Wahlbergs, if you like. But if they're building the nest from scratch, it's mainly built by the male, and it takes about 6 weeks, which is a really long time. They're obviously doing it with their beak alone, and they're heavy birds. I mean, a battalier will weigh about over 2 kilograms, and therefore it's got to support the weight of the adults, 2 adults sitting on it, and an egg, and a chick, who are all moving. They're not exactly statue still, and therefore it's got to be very, very robust. The structure's got to be very, very robust and hold the body weight of all of them, and that's probably why it takes so long to build. Okay, I'm slowly going to make my way to the hyena den, but we're going to send you across to Impala with their stalking lioness.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala, everybody. I have just driven into a very interesting scene. There is one lioness. I'm not sure which pride she's from. And you can see by the way she's standing, she's busy stalking some impalas at the moment. So I'm trying to be very still and very quiet. And I'm watching her edge forward just inch by inch. Have a look at how focused she is. She has not taken her eyes off them, and you can see how carefully she's walking. So she is actually behind a bush for the impalas at the moment. And look how flat she is. This is unbelievable. She's actually just seen another impala. It's the male right at the back of the herd. Just to her right. That's why she's laid down. She doesn't want to blow her cover. There she's starting to leopard crawl through the grass. So none of the impalas have seen her yet. They're just off to the left. There is the male that she saw. And luckily he is behind quite a bit of cover, which means she's got the opportunity to walk closer. There she's up and walking again now. As he started moving away, she's taking that chance to edge closer behind the bushes. She's literally going one tiny step at a time. Vincent, the success rate of lions hunting alone is usually actually about the same as them hunting in a pride, maybe a tiny bit less, and that would be at around 50 to 60% success rate. I think a lot of the time people think that lions only hunt big things in prides, but actually a majority of the meals that the lions here at Ambionangala eat are things like single impalas, and so we don't really see it because they finish it so quickly. But at the way that she's going now, at the pace that she's going, she has a decent chance because there is a lot of cover and the grass is so long. You can see how careful she's being. She's calculating every move and making sure that she's watching all of the impalas, not just the male, because if anybody spots her, it will blow her cover. But even just the way that she's standing, you can see how much power she has. She is solid muscle. She's not the biggest lioness I've ever seen. She might still be a little bit young, although she does have some scarring. So she's completely fixated on those impalas. And they're quite close to that tall marilla you can see on the left-hand side there. They're kind of behind it, spread throughout those bushes. And as soon as one of them notices her, there'd be a very distinct alarm call. And so at the moment, you can see it's still very peaceful. Not even the birds are alarm calling. But how well does she blend in that scenery? LT, she would ideally need to be maybe between 5 and 15 to 20 meters away, so pretty close. Because lions are quite a bit heavier and thicker set than things like leopards and cheetahs and wild dogs. They're a lot slower, which means she needs to be closer to catch them and give them that element of surprise. If they see her from a distance, they will quite easily outrun her. So she has to get really, really close in order to catch one. She's perfectly downwind of them at the moment. You can just see the tips of the grass are actually bending over backwards towards me or towards the camera. And she's downwind of them, which means the wind is blowing from them to her, and so they can't smell her. She's got perfect cover at the moment. She's downwind, so the chances of them spotting her are very low. Also, the sun has started setting, which means she's not in direct sunlight, and so she blends in a lot better. If the sun was out, she would have had to wait a while because it reflects gold off of her coat and makes her easier to spot. So those impalas are all through those bushes there at the back, busy feeding. You can see one or two of them. That impala's actually spotted some elephants, which are behind me, so there's a lot going on here at the moment. There's actually a whole herd of elephants moving through, and the elephants are also completely unaware of the lioness. And she is dead still, probably because she can see that one impala that is looking up and being alert. So I'd be interested to know if there are actually more lions around here, or if it's just her on her own. Because this area, the tracks that I was following on the road are of quite a few different members of a pride, and so I'm thinking she is part of a pride that's in the area. Maybe she's just split off. But you can actually see there are elephants through the back there that are walking through. And it's a whole herd with tiny babies. They would kick up a massive fuss if they could smell this lioness and knew that she was close because of the calves. But you can see the light is dropping so beautifully, and it's the perfect chance for her right now. And she is still poised in that same position behind that bush. And I don't want to move the vehicle. I don't want to create any attention towards this area because she is quite close to me. I don't want the impalas looking over here because I start the vehicle or anything like that. I want to be as still as possible to make sure that it's as natural as possible. You can actually barely see her now on the slide. And she's so still that if you drove past, you'd almost think she's a termite mound. So that's one of the most important things to look at with a lion's body language is the ears. And at the moment she's got them half up. She is listening for the sounds around her. But as soon as she starts moving forward, she flattens them backwards completely so that they don't stick out against the shape of her head. And that can be really important when you're trying to read any animal's body language. So at the moment, she looks like she's settling down before she moves forward again. Have a look at how well camouflaged she is now. Those impalas have no idea. They might even start coming closer. She's positioned herself very well. There's a pan system off to her right, which they might come towards. So I'm definitely going to stay here and see what happens as soon as she starts moving again. And hopefully we'll see her in action.
Welcome back, everybody. Our lions have been a little bit of running around, playing with each other for a moment. A bit of biting and scratching. It's an interesting time, and they start getting playful. They might get up, start hunting, but the report to that male buffalo, he's all the way down at Twin Dams itself now. Don't know if the telemarketers have been that far south. I think they have, actually. The wind is coming from that direction. Or from the east, in fact. It's one of the old girls. And the grooming starts, followed by the yawning. Followed by the stretching, which I think has happened already because they've walked. I don't even know how far. We certainly didn't see them on our way in. We went out the direction that they came in, so they must have crossed in, but then there's not that many vehicles around at the moment, and we went south this morning, so they could have actually been quite close. It's one of the benefits of having vehicles moving. It's going to be a bit of a head scratch here in a minute, or a head rub. No, maybe not. She decided to move slightly. So, she's the one who's grooming a moment ago. General direction is the south and east. A little bit muddy here. Times of day. We're going to do a nice sunset for you this evening, everybody, but once again the cats got in the way. It's all right. We'll take it. There's the dam cam, everybody, middle of shot. Poetelle Dam. Here at Jacobin Cuckoo. So the Valence Cuckoo. Now have a look at the intention. She's walking through the open, but her sister can't help herself. She knows her sister's going to jump her, so she's just going to lay down right there. Anyway, we're going to send you down the road to Lauren, who's found the hyenas.
We made it to the den. And of course, Mummy and Djuma is here. A little cub's head popped out. Don't worry, I think we'll get a few. But nobody else is here. It's all very quiet at the den, most likely because it's been an extremely hot day. Just calling the cub. I love how they do that. The cub only responds with his mom until a certain age, of course, and then, well, the mom struggled to get them back in the den. Djuma, why are you always so sleepy? Are you smiling or yawning? Oh, hello, I see you. goodness, I remember when Mgwazi and Shimbulu were this size, and then Braveheart, and now this little one. We're going to tuck ourselves right under Mom's belly, I think. And I hope if we just sit here for long enough, all the other cubs will start to wake up. I haven't seen Pumela and Gingarika since they've had their names. Or Braveheart, actually. So I may as well give you all a reminder. Please get on to the vote for Junebug. I know which one's my favourite, but I won't say. We have Novella, which means adore in English. Yimisela, which means determined. And the one that I'm most definitely not going to be able to pronounce with my swollen mouth. Shisleko. That's the best I can do today. And it means giggles. So you have a choice. And we will be announcing on Friday. On Sunset Drive. So you've got plenty of time to think about it for Junebug. Not this little one. This little one's a little bit too young. I wish I knew which den Intima chose as her natal den. It wasn't any of the Philemon's ones for sure, because I check every day. I don't know which den she used. But we knew you were pregnant. Mm-hmm. She can't keep her eyes open. So unfortunately we don't have IR on this vehicle. So once it gets too dark we'll have to leave, but we will stay as long as we can. And hopefully lots of other spotty heads will pop up. I know I mention this every day, but I still haven't seen Hart or Corky. Seen Ribbon, seen Intima, obviously, and Dune. But no Corks or Hart. Okay, we're going to sit here as long as we can, but I believe Tess has had a stroke of luck and found some more lions.
Welcome back to Anbianangala. So that lioness unfortunately was chased off by a hyena, and as I followed her she started contact calling. And here, just on the other side of the thicket, are the 14 members of the Birmingham Breakaway Pride. With 7 sub-adult males, looks like 2 older females, and a good 5 young lionesses as well. And literally all around my vehicle at the moment, there are just lions everywhere that are starting to get active. They're playing and they're yawning. And in fact, I've got 2 lions literally just to my left. Have a look at that. They're so close that they're actually behind the bars of my vehicle. And they actually came over to us once we had stopped, which is so incredible. But you can see they've heard something. Those elephants are behind us there. And what an amazing way to find this pride from one lioness stalking. Absolutely beautiful. And this is very close to where I saw them the other day, so I think they're starting to expand their territory. There's an elephant coming in on the left, and it's definitely smelling them. It's currently half hiding behind a bush. Have a look at that. You can just see its ear sticking out. There we go. You can see the movement. And there's the tail. There are so many sounds. Birds alarm calling, wildebeest calling, impalas. That elephant is literally about 20 meters away from these lions. Hammond, a lion's roar is incredibly loud. I don't know the amount of decibels you would measure it at, but on a cold night or a clear night, you could actually hear it as far as 15 kilometers away, which is unbelievable. So it is incredibly loud. When they're sitting this close to the vehicle and one of them starts roaring, the small pieces on the vehicle actually start vibrating. You can actually feel it going through your body. It's unbelievable. So we've got a few of them starting to wake up now, starting to play. Kind of moving around a bit. And they're actually so spread out that it's tough to get a head count consistently because they keep moving. She's going to the bathroom. So I'm going to stay here a while longer and see what happens. I've got the elephants coming in behind me, so I'm definitely going to keep watching this to see what happens. I'm going to send you over to and beyond Phinda with some stunning scenery in the meantime.
Welcome back. We are live at Phinda, and we've got a beautiful sunset scene. So on our way back towards home here at Phinda, we stumbled across a mother hippo, and it looks like she has a really young calf, which is there. It just popped up now. So at this age, it looks like that calf is really small. So it looks like she's probably broken away from the pod that she'll usually live with to have her little one, and then she'll stay here for a few days before she goes back to the rest of her family. Such a pleasure to see a little hippo at this age. You just have to keep watching though, because it only seems to lift its head up. There it is again. Only for a few seconds and it's gone under. It is tiny. And the reason it'll be popping up every now and then will be to breathe. Where it'll go back under the water where it probably feels a little bit safer. You can see the mother is staying really close to the youngster. And she's keeping an eye on us at all times. At this age, obviously that little hippo is very vulnerable. I actually don't know if they can swim straight away from birth, but what I do know about hippos is they aren't really strong swimmers at all. So they usually stay in water where they can walk upon and reach the surface. And when you do see them, they usually are in water that they are able to stand up and be able to breathe from. So I presume of ability to be able to move around underwater, but I doubt it's a very strong swimmer. So it's likely that mother is, well, she is, you can see her just lift herself up now. She's standing in shallow water at the moment, and then what they do when they need to get underwater, they'll just kind of lie down underneath the water, so just their heads are sticking up.
giraffe will actually be suckling underneath the water. So we're just going to sit here and listen to the beautiful sounds of the weavers and the frogs, and hopefully get a better view of this little one again.
Well, welcome to Impalas on the other side. There's not going to be any concern, I don't think, this afternoon. They're very far away in comparison for what these lions need to achieve. Still looking at them though, going, food. You see what I mean when I talk about the intention, everybody? All of them are looking at the exact same place. It's very obvious by the coloration behind the ears. Although they're not showing enormous amounts of intention at the moment, the body language changes when they do. So I'm sure we've all seen, and hopefully we'll get them to do that this afternoon. There's some intention behind me. I'm going to maybe move the car. Do you see anything, Seb?
No.
Oh, they might go to quarantine. Sorry about that. Just come back to me here. It's going to reverse back a little bit. Don't want to do a big loop because there are some seep lines out in the open. And we've been stuck more than enough times the last couple of weeks. And they are heading up towards quarantine. It's kind of anticipated. The intention I spoke about. Now the wind is coming from behind them. They know there's food up there. Maybe they saw something. Maybe they can hear the hoof falls. Head moves from side to side. They're trying to listen. You can see the wind direction. We have the lions all the time. Doesn't matter which pride I've seen. They come onto Djuma, they go straight through quarantine because the amount of smells of animals that must be emanating from that area, because a lot of them spend the night, the wildebeest, the Impala. And I was just saying, this morning we found wildebeest tracks and then found that male wildebeest. That's right up the end of this road, just on the corner of quarantine. So hopefully it isn't his time. But he's a splendid old fellow. Right, so the wind definitely benefits the predator because it messes with the noises. These animals are very good at seeing in the darkness. Obviously, if it's very windy and there's light, the impalas can see. If they can't see in the darkness, then it benefits the lions and the leopards, especially when there's more than one of them. Okay, let me reposition. We're going to go to infrared shortly. Going to reposition, try to get maybe on the other side of these lions. Find out what they might be seeing up over here. They're lying pretty much where they attacked that plastic pipe that time. So they know this area
a lot better than they did last time we were here. I'm going to stop there for now. We'll probably reposition again shortly. But can you see the intention on the bodies? The angle is off to the left. They've heard something in that direction. The wind is actually coming straight across them now. The shift coming straight from left to right. You see her lifting her nose there. Lifting her nose to the breeze. And who knows what it is that they can be smelling. But I would love to be able to smell like a lion. I don't know though if I would like to be able to smell like a hyena.
Maybe they're smelling you, Steve. Maybe they recognize the scent of the wolf. The hyenas actually smell very pleasant today. We keep getting brief visuals of the cub, but we now know the cub is very brave and can walk past the entrance. No doubt about that. But I think Steve was just talking about predators and prey. And in an ecosystem, it's actually fascinating. And there's a concept in biology, and it's named after a chess piece that Alice actually meets in Alice Through the Looking Glass. And Alice is perpetually running without getting very far, and that's because the landscape is moving with her. So she's moving, but the landscape's also moving. And this concept is called the Red Queen, and it's really, really interesting. Oh, quickly over to Impala.
Welcome back to Impala. So I've got the whole of this pride walking straight towards the vehicle. They look like they wanted to hunt some impalas, but unfortunately with all the movement of the lions, the impalas saw them and they've started moving off. So now it looks like the pride is just coming this way to move over and maybe get comfortable a bit closer to the impalas until they relax again. I've actually got one lioness that's lying just to the right of my vehicle. And this lioness is actually still stalking. No. So there's a very, very old lioness in this pride that's looking incredibly thin. And I think she's somewhere at the back. Following very slowly, but this is definitely one of the older lionesses. You can see that face and that positioning, she means business. However, it seems like the other lions have not caught on to that yet, and they're all still moving quite quickly. She's actually going to walk right in front of my vehicle here. She's absolutely beautiful. She's one of the bigger lionesses. And just by her size, it almost seems like she might be part of the Birmingham Pride. So I definitely think this is Birmingham Breakaway Pride. I've got all of the lions coming past now. And I've actually got 3 behind my vehicle at the moment, lying in the road. So here's the very old lioness coming in. You can see she's moving slowly. She's quite thin. And she's probably fairly close to the end. So I've got the lions right behind me here. Some of the younger males are still having a look. This one is right behind me having a look at us with my lack of door. And this is that big lioness. That's one of the older ones as well. So I've actually got quite a few of the sub-adults right here in front of me. I've actually got to bend out of the shot for you. Isn't she stunning? Here she comes past me. Hello, girl. So you can see she is still quite young. She might even be the one that was stalking earlier. She's not so sure. She is still fairly young. I'd say 2.5 years old. Look at her eyes. Absolutely beautiful yellow. And she's now sitting and thinking. Looking back towards the impalas. It's quite an incredible feeling having 14 lions literally lying on all sides of my vehicle right now. You can hear the impalas calling in the background. It sounds a bit like a sneeze. A lot of frogs calling at the moment as well. So at the moment it seems like they are still a bit hungry and they are still interested in the impalas. So it's definitely worth me staying here to watch what happens. There's still 2 more lions coming from my left-hand side. So I think very soon I'm going to be completely surrounded, which is such a beautiful feeling. I'm definitely enjoying this tonight.
Not now. That is the irony of live TV. He was standing, and he has been standing for 5 minutes or more on the left-hand side of the road. We've been having a little bit of a standoff, and as soon as we go live, he's like, okay, well, that's my time to walk out of the shot. That is just so typical. Let me go a little bit closer. Maybe we'll get another view, or he might. There we go. I thought that if we started the car, he'd pop his head up over the bushes. So I don't want to chase him. I'm just going to approach slowly, because he's been standing there for a while. There is another one that's already gone up and over the dunes, and I must say it was a very awkward climb up and over the dunes for the giraffe. It was sort of 2 front legs, trying to get 2 back legs, trying to get sort of momentum up the dune, and it looked very cumbersome and very clumsy. Yeah, he's definitely like, you shall not pass. He's definitely decided that we not going to go up this road. Oh, I can hear jackals calling in the background. Bit far, but nice little. They starting to say it's time to get up, announcing their territory. So all he did is he went to the tree for a snack, and now he's back to where he was standing earlier. They are just absolutely stunning animals. You can see sort of a bit of a weather system building up out in the east. So maybe some rain later on this evening. It's definitely some more thunder and lightning out to the south. We can hear it, but it's far enough away today. It always does amaze me that these such large creatures, such heavy creatures. I mean, you're looking at a creature weighing about 700 kilograms. Anne is asking the question, what's the best interaction I've ever had with the giraffe? Well, it had to probably be many, 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 and I say that with lots of manys. When I first started my guiding career, I was walking and walked into a group of about 11 or 13, I can't remember, it was so long ago, but they'd always said to me, if you lie down and sort of kick your legs in the air, you'll gain interest from the giraffe and you sort of see what happens. And so they'd seen me because I was walking, and I thought, well, let me try this. And I did. I sort of lay down and kicked my legs in the air, and within about 15-20 minutes, most of the giraffes started approaching, but it was like who was the bravest of the lot. You could see them. They'd look at each other, and the one would take 2 steps forward, and then 1 or 2 of the others would be braver, and they'd come a little bit further forward until eventually they got relatively close. They had a good look, and then they turned around and they walked away. And then I have had another encounter with a little calf, a giraffe calf, that I was trying to sneak up on, to kind of do the same thing to see what would happen with a giraffe calf. The mistake I made was not really looking where the mother was, and the next second I just heard and I looked up, and this giraffe was relatively close and sort of looming over, looking at me, sort of squeezing its belly and blowing air out of its nose, telling me, hey, back off, go a little bit further away from my calf. So since my early days, I have learned a lot more respect for giraffe, and I do leave them be, but they are absolutely awesome to experience on horseback. They allow you to get really, really close on horseback because they don't see you as a human. They just see the horse shape, and the smells are more animal-like. So they are awesome to go on horseback, which we can do here at Tswalu. And on walks, the trick with giraffe is not to approach them directly. You kind of go at a slight angle, but you cut that angle at sort of more than 45 degrees, and you do land up getting a lot closer, and they are often very interested in you. He's the most unmoved giraffe in ages. We're going to send you to Steve, who hopefully has his lions moving a bit more than this giraffe.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, something live, they all went. Hello, here we are. The wind has just returned. You can see the one with the injured eye there, can't you? Now, just give them a bit of space because there's actually a scrub here in the road in front of me. That's what's got their attention. You just come back a little bit Bless. You'll see the scrub hare in the road. Keep coming. There he is. That's what got his attention. I don't think the scrub hare has any idea that there are the largest carnivores on the African continent lined up there. But that's how in tune their ears are, everybody, the lions. They all moved at the exact same time that scrub hare shuffled out onto the road. So if you could hear a bunny moving around, you've got some good hearing. So we just gave them some space because we thought they might move up the road towards quarantine. That's one very brave scrub hare. He thinks now, he's like, just stand still. Bear in mind the lions that can't see very well in the dark might not see him very well if he doesn't move. The eyes are all closing. And he's going to take a moment. And when he does bolt, he's going to bolt. Jabu, there's not much of interest there, to be honest. The effort to move and catch that thing, it's a very hard thing to catch. And if they do catch it, it would be just a mouthful. Okay. You never know if the scrub hare doesn't know. Oh, look, that's an amazing stretch. He's just woken up. If he doesn't know the lions are there, he might find himself in a spot of bother. I don't think the lions are going to try. There's an enormous amount of effort for them to get up and move towards him. There's probably 7, maybe 8 meters, maybe 10. Let's say 10 meters between them. He's busy feeding. And a leopard would be all over that. A leopard, that's a nice little meal. For a lion, it would be just an hors d'oeuvre. Good call, Mr. Scrub Hare. Very good call coming this way. He has no idea. Bunny with a death wish. Yeah, you could say that. He's just woken up, you see. And so that stretch it did was just waking up. Time to come out and eat some food. We see many of them around. I wonder how many of them are caught by lions, though. It'll be interesting to know that fact because, you know, the only real knowledge we have of animal kills is physically seeing them or finding the remains, and well, there'll be nothing left. We often find scrub hares that have been killed because of the stomach that gets removed, or the belly, or the tails left behind. But I don't think a lion would even go so far to be so discerning. It would just, like one of those little skewered nibbles at the hors d'oeuvre table. There's no portioning of that, everybody. No portioning. Basically just swallow it whole. Well, we've got some very flat cats. They sure know how to take it easy, everybody, when there's not much going on. I think they hoped for an early meal this afternoon. It probably was just one of them. And they all followed. And then they got a bit dehydrated with that walk. It was quite hot after all. Of course, canine. Every animal gets a fright. Lions get chased by elephants, lions get frights from other lions, lion cubs get frights from all sorts of things. And believe it or not, in the daytime, lions are actually slightly afraid of humans. First time wild lions see a vehicle, they behave a little bit differently, as anybody would if you took a human being from the 1300s and you suddenly teleported him to this day and you drove a car past him. He would probably do more than just cover his eyes. There'd be some bodily functions that change. So things that aren't known are often frightening. We do fear the unknown, especially a loud petrol guzzling machine that makes a lot of noise. But right now nothing is frightening these lions at all. We're probably going to move up a little bit closer to get the IR light on for you, but we had anticipated them moving here. But now I'm worried if I start the car, we're going to chase the scrub hare into the waiting jaws of these felines. Wait for him to move a bit first, shall we? Hippo agrees with us on that. Feeding on the best little bits of grass. Bless you. Let's see how that eye shines back. That is the tapetum lucidum. Basically just the filament on the back of the eye that allows many animals to see at night. Allows them to sort of absorb the light. That's why when that lioness is looking at us, you can see her one eye is blind because it's damaged. It's damaged, it's not giving the tapetum lucidum reflection, which means she most likely has got absolutely no vision out of that eye. Okay, here we go. This is what we were waiting for. We are joined in the sighting by other vehicles, so you might see a spotlight at the back. That's how people conduct normal safaris. We are blessed to be able to do these and view these animals with the infrared. The scraphead just bolted past me. He gave me a little bit of a fright. He ended up being so close there. Oh. Hello, lion. Are you walking right past us? This is what we anticipated. This is what we anticipated. One. And the more are going to come. And they're going to head up onto quarantine. And they're going to go terrorize whatever animals happen to be lurking around in quarantine this evening. If that wildebeest male who's finally returned back is indeed there, he's going to think again about his position on the landscape, although male wildebeest are incredibly vigilant, everybody. It's not often you find them being caught by lions. They're constantly on the alert, on the aware side. That's why so many animals like to hang out with wildebeest, especially the bulls, territorial bulls. They're aware of everything that's going on in their territory. You can almost think of it as one of those hustlers on the local street corner. He sees everything that's going, sees everyone who comes and goes. There's no getting past him. Irish, isn't it? We are very blessed to be able to have views like this of a wild pride of lions. Don't get me wrong, everybody. There's nothing tame about these lions. They are as wild as they come. They are Kruger Park lions, but they've been habituated. So they're used to the vehicle. They don't see us as a threat. They don't see us as food. And so that's how we're able to allow them to walk right past us like this without any sort of negative behavior. I can't really explain it to you what it feels like to sit here and have them walking past, that you can hear the pads of the feet and you can hear the breathing. I'm going to allow you to listen to this next one as it comes past and see if you can hear the breathing. I think it was the young male that was breathing quite heavily there. This one's playing catch up. You're going to hear her breathing. You should. How splendid. And of course, last but not least is going to be Limpy, old man, dark mane. But I'm going to reposition so we can get up to quarantine while these lions start to make their move up there. Before Limpiness himself catches up. Oh, goodness. Okay, well, we're going to turn around, head up the hill, send you over to Tswalu Kalahari with Deirdre.
So we've driven a little bit further away from that giraffe that we had earlier, and we found an entire journey, also either a journey or a tower of giraffe. I can see necks and heads popping out the bushes. It's quite thick in some places, but there's at least 10 individuals here. And keep a lookout on the horizon in the background. We're seeing quite a lot of lightning strikes, so we might land up with some on live TV, but it looks like the camel thorn trees are getting a bit of a treatment at the moment. They're all getting pruned by the giraffe. They'll even eat the seed pods as well, so the seed pods is like a nice protein package. And they will eat those seed pods. But the seed pods are designed for that. They're designed almost to go through the giraffe system and potentially get deposited somewhere else when it comes out the other end. And then the seed can then germinate when conditions are ideal. So they choose whether they want to be in a group together or not. Talu does tend to have some of the large groups of males clustered together. Carla is asking the question, can we tell their age? It's very difficult with giraffe. Once they're sort of over a certain size, it's very difficult to age. And they only live till about 23. So you can, if you can compare them, some bulls to other bulls, you can see maybe by the size, the thickness of the ossicones. You could see almost that lump on the front of the head, how much of that is, how big it is or how large it is. And also sort of the general condition of the giraffe. If it's got lots of scars scars and it sort of walks with a bit of a limp and it's elderly, then you know it's one of the older, more dominant bulls. Amongst them, this looks like predominantly males, if I can see, but I can't see them all. Amongst them, they'll have their own sort of hierarchical ranking. So the ones that want to go up in dominance will have to challenge the more dominant bull above them. If they succeed in their fight, they then sort of go up sort of one rung in the ladder. And that's sometimes, if you see how they interact with each other and you watch them for a long time, you'll be able to figure out their ages. Also then will give you a good idea based on who's more dominant than anyone else. So the wind is definitely picking up. You can see the grass moving quite a lot. Carla is asking the question, can giraffe become aggressive towards predators? Absolutely. Giraffe have killed lion before. They will kick. They can kick forwards as well as backwards. So forwards with the front legs and then back with the back legs. And they have killed lion before. And actually, when I said they've killed giraffe before, they have also killed giraffe before. When bulls are fighting, it can get quite serious and they can kick and kill sort of a fighting opponent if it were that way. Let me see, what do you think, Morgan? Should I go back or forwards? Neither. Maybe we'll go back a little bit. There might be one coming into the open clearing. There's so many there, so we'll just go back a little bit and see if we can get one of the others into frame. You wouldn't believe it. There we go. That's a bit better. So backwards was the good choice. So they're happy to come and go as they please, living in this little group. But here at Tswalu, they do tend to stay in larger groups. They're quite happy to keep each other company. And we've got both groups of just males, just females, or mixed groups, males and females. So some people also assume that giraffe are older if they're darker. That's not the case. But we're going to send you back to Steve. It sounds like he's got another update.
Welcome back, everybody. All of the lions are coming up. There's the dam cam light in the background there, I think. All the lions are looking interested. Graham. Lauren. Okay, so impalas are running. You saw the lions were. Are they going to catch anything? Oh. It's a very big lion, yeah. Oh, there's not much we can do. They're about to walk towards us. But the lions are very interested in a herd of impala that have run from these other large animals, but there might be some more residual around. See, they're all coming up. Look at the intention. See the body language. It's going into a sort of stalk semi-run. Now, that language would be very well interpreted from the back, from her sisters who can see in the pitch black. And I have no idea what she's looking at. Another line at the top there. You can see the one with the blind eyes at the back. There's still impalas there, exactly where they were before. It was a really large group. So we don't know what the rest of the pride have done. They might be doing a big loop around. We're going to stay here and see what they get up to.
So Morgan and I are just watching nature do its final sort of display for the evening. There is massive amounts of lightning on the horizon, so literally in the next 2 minutes, I'm very certain we will see some of the lightning that's been happening in those clouds in the south. There we go. You can see a little bit of it. It is just absolutely stunning. So the very southern end of the Kalahari is going to get some rain shortly, and the Kalahari never complains about getting rain. They've had 6-7 years of drought. This is the first year that the drought is broken, and we're actually getting above average rainfall. I mean, the reserve, certain sections of the reserve have had over 600 mils of rain when we only expect 250, and that's a good year. So it's just amazing. That's why it becomes challenging to find animals like cheetah, which is the challenge that we had today. And even the trackers at one stage said they actually cannot see the tracks anymore. There were just too many forbs and too many grasses in the way. So, yeah, you just have to keep sticking with us and amongst all the different properties. And we'll definitely continue to show you some more good things. So lightning, very random, but very often it's sort of up and down. Laura Moore is saying, gorgeous view. That's basically looking towards the south. So generally across the dunes down south, the mountains a little bit more to be on the screen, what would be on the left-hand side. But just a real show at the moment with all those lightning. So we're not hearing the thunder, so we know it is really, really far away from us at this point. We know we'll make it home and dry today.